Hey guys, I'm Fancy.
And I'm Brandy.
And I'm not.
Oh, you're breaking up. He's not. And this is where Divine is fine. Hey guys, so I welcome back to the channel. As you can see that we are being joined tonight by one of our good friends, Brandy, and one of our experts, David Lampley. And so I just wanted to make a quick announcement real quick. As you guys have noticed, maybe Colleen has not been around as much lately. She is going to be taking a step back for a while to concentrate more on family and her education right now and just take care of some personal matters in her life. So we want to wish her well. And she does say that she loves everybody and, she hopes that everybody does continue to go on. So Brandy is going to be joining me a little bit more and a couple other people. But hey, this is a big opportunity for all of you guys out there watching. We are looking for a brand new co-host. So if this is something you've ever thought about doing, you are more than welcome to send in a short video clip telling us a little bit about yourselves, why you want to do this, if you have any experience, to goodwivesdish@gmail.com. And then you might end up being on the show. So anyway, but tonight, let's welcome Stephen back. We haven't had you on for quite a while, huh?
Well, you've been busy. I'll be honest, I haven't heard all of your shows, but you got some dynamic, really powerful material out there. You really do.
Thank you. We've been working really hard this last year. So, and I mean, you've been really busy too with this whole case that you've been working on, and you still were doing the Institute. Are you still doing the classes? Or are you not doing?
No, well, I've had to cut back. I'm going to pick them up at some time. It's just physically impossible. And to be honest, in my opinion, and I don't mean people to take this wrong, I think solving a cold case is probably more of a priority than teaching classes. Maybe
Absolutely.
People don't agree with that, but something just had to go, and I felt that we'll pick that up later. So.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. I say every day to my team, to my family, I'm like, there's not enough hours in the day. I need like 5 more hours to get something done. Why do I have to sleep tonight? So yeah, it's just, I totally understand. We've been doing that, the same way. So I can hear myself echoing back.
There is a weird echo. I thought that was just me.
Is it coming from me?
It is.
I don't hear your echo, so it may be coming from me.
It's like a reverb back, so
let me cut my mic off and then y'all talk.
Yeah, see now it is. So crud, I don't know what to do. Do you don't have headphones at all that plug in?
I do not. I did, but they fell apart and I procrastinated really, really big time. Let me turn the volume down.
Yeah, maybe just turn it down.
Does that help?
Yes.
Yes.
Does that help better?
Yes.
Yes, much better.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I'm having a hard time hearing you, but I'll listen in really, really good.
Well, we'll just let you talk a lot. How about that?
Mine just completely played out, and I thought, okay, well, I'll get some. Well, that was about a month ago, and that hasn't happened yet. So.
I know. Trust me, I've gone to the store 5 times this week for tape and never come home with tape.
Didn't we just have that conversation with Craig yesterday about getting tape today?
Excuse me.
So anyway, but tonight, guys, we're going to have Stephen talk about a case that's very dear to him. It is a case out of 1969. It's the case of Kathy Jones. She was in Tennessee, and she was a little girl, 12 years old. She left her home at 7:45 in the evening. She was supposed to go to Krispy Kreme to grab a donut. And then she was going to later go on to the roller dome skating rink, and she never arrived. And so Stephen has been working on this for quite some time. So Stephen, you want to kind of let us know, what you're working on with it, a little more about the case?
Well, let me, if you don't mind, take a minute and start back how I got this case.
Sure.
This is a case that I'm working on my own. Nobody came to me and said, hey, would you help us? This is a case I stumbled across. I was working, let me give you a little background. I was working on another cold case of a girl in Nashville as well, Dorothy Ann Disselhurst. And this case was in 1934. I thought, okay, this is going to be one hell of a challenge, but let's do it. And so I started doing all the research, and it's very difficult with that time frame. But in doing so, what was just so amazing about Dorothy's case is that there are honestly still people living who were her age. Now they were her age, they were kids, but one particular knew Kathy. I knew her when we talked. So I was actually able to talk to people who knew her and her family and knew about the neighborhood. And in doing so, what's even more just amazing is that one of these girls who knew of Kathy, of course, lived in the neighborhood. She was completely 100% responsible for us identifying a new suspect.
Oh,
wow.
Way back from 1934, we have a new suspect. Now, given he was around her, she said he was around 50 and 19. Well, he's long gone. And the chances of finding out his name are probably really, really slim. But we have a description of him and his truck.
Wow.
So that's where we are with that one, and it may or may not ever go any farther. But in doing research, getting back to the
here's the name of the book that you wrote about that, right? The
yes,
true story of the
it's
book
I think it's called 3 Blocks is the name of that book, and it's not real. It's a quick read. It's not real thick because there's not a lot of info. So
right.
But in doing research, the way Kathy Jones or Nora Kathleen Jones, Kathy came about was one, and it's really strange. And I don't mean to get all metaphysical and woo, about it, but in doing research for Dorothy Ann, somehow Kathy's case popped up in that 1934 search. And of course, you ever had something pop up and you're, oh, that's interesting. Wonder what that's about. And you start getting into it. Well, I was working on Dorothy. I thought, I'll just print. I'm old school. I do the file system and papers and pen. Let me just print those couple of pages out. I'll just print those couple of pages out, put them in a file folder, and I'll set it aside. And I went back to Dorothy. And I actually, I'll be honest, I actually forgot about it because I got back into Dorothy again. And when I finished the book and sent it in, and now it's time out, because when I do a book, I don't know about I know about a couple of them. They do the same as I. When I finished a book, I've got stacks on the floor. I've got papers here. I got books. I've got to do a major cleanup and file after I finish. So I was doing that, and I was going through some papers, and I come across the file. Oh, this is that. Oh, and I opened it up and started doing research on it. And the more, even now, the more I dug, the more information I got, the more I needed to know. I would start out with 2 pages. That has led me literally across the country to other states and other cities. But and one phenomenal, and I'll say this, and I'll shut up and let you ask another question. One of the phenomenal things about this is that it occurred in November/December over a period of about 4 days in 1969. Now, the Nashville Police Department, there are no words to sing their praises. They have worked and worked and worked and worked. They've done everything that they can. With now, of course, it's a cold case, and with cold cases, you work them when you can, because you've got cases now that you can solve. So it's with the cold case unit. They've been phenomenal with this. But what I've found is when I started doing this, I need help. I've got to reach out. This is not all about me and the internet and Kathy. I've got to reach out to people. We're talking 1969. Plenty of people are still living who lived in the Woodbine area, who knew the family. I've got to find them.
Right.
So what I did was I went to social media, contacted one of the group pages, admins. I said, look, this is who I am. This is what I'm doing. And I would like to, issue a long appeal on this page. They were stupendous. They were wondering, yes, please do. We'll accept you. Do what you need to do. And I did that. Anyway, long story short, in the 1960s, we had a different mindset.
Yes.
We had a family of now don't get me wrong. This is the way it was in the 1960s. We had a mother, father, 2.3 kids, 1 car, a chicken in the pot, and that's basically what we had. Andy Griffith on TV. That's the kind of thing. But what we didn't have in the 1960s was open communication, and there were things we didn't talk about. We don't talk about rape. We don't talk about child. We don't. Oh no, those
That
we
was
don't
just
talk. Well, Kathy was murdered in the 1960s, so there was a lot of information. Oh no, don't get involved. Stay. So, but now that's certainly not the case now. So when I issued that appeal, if you have anything, people come out of the woodwork. They said, we've never told. I don't know how many.
Right.
Wow. I don't know how many people have told me, I've never told anybody this before, but we uncovered 2 rapes that were unreported in the 1960s.
Wow.
No, they were never reported.
Oh my.
People have literally just bent over backwards. We have a lady who wishes to remain anonymous, who is there in Nashville and has contacted, even with COVID, contacted some of the archives personnel, and they have said, anything you need, you call us, whatever you need. We're at your disposal. The response has been, I've never worked a case like this. Never. 21 years, never worked a case where people were so willing to help and come forward and give information. We have 2 very, very strong suspects. One is deceased, one is not. But basically, that's where we are at the moment. But again, I want to reiterate, the people of Nashville, phenomenal folks, phenomenal people.
So Kathy went missing on November 29th, and by December 1st, they had found her.
Yes.
Okay.
Saturday night, they found her Tuesday.
Right.
Yes, I believe that's right. Yeah, they found her Tuesday. It was right around, I can't remember if it's before, right around lunchtime.
Yeah.
Okay. And so she had been assaulted and she had been suffocated.
Well, yeah, I'll leave it at that.
She had a sock, a piece of her sock down in her throat.
Yes, they had cut one of her bobby socks in half and stuffed it in her throat and then tied her blouse around her mouth.
Yeah.
And somewhere, according to the police report, apparently the bobby sock lodged too far and suffocated her.
Okay.
The one thing with this case that caught me was that they didn't do autopsies in that city. In Henderson? In Henderson?
Nashville.
Was it Nashville?
It was in the Woodbine. If you look at Nashville, Woodbine would be in the southeastern section of the city.
I used to live out in Clarksville for a couple of years, so some of the area, but it's been a while. That was the one thing that I heard today was that they didn't do autopsies then in that area. They just sometimes they didn't. They just didn't. They didn't do anything on her, and they didn't even find the sock. The funeral home found the sock in her throat.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, because we've been doing some work with Othram Inc., which is David Middleman, based on the fact that she was raped and assaulted. Is there any type of DNA from that time period that that could be tested? There are some fibers that, at least as and you have to understand, the police department's not going to tell me everything. I'm an ex-police officer. I understand why. I know why. There were some fibers that were found on her that were not common to anything that they could, her house or her, greenish blue fibers, but there was blood on her abdomen that did not belong to her. Unfortunately, there was not much there. So when there was, sometimes you had to wait for the technology to catch up with the evidence. Right. And when the DNA finally caught up enough, they took at least part of that blood sample and sent it to the FBI lab. Unfortunately, there was not enough there there was enough blood there to say, okay, it belongs to a male. But we don't have enough DNA where we can say what male. If we had a suspect that had DNA, we don't have enough of that to match. We can just say, yeah, they were both males. Well, I definitely think we should get you hooked up with David, because they're able to do this mitochondrial, genealogical DNA testing that is way.
There's not even enough of that.
Well,
now I have questioned. I've got a
small amount.
Yeah, I have a friend of mine who's been on my radio show podcast out in LA, who's a DNA expert, and I have talked with him about it. There is a way, and again, I'm not even beginning to be a DNA expert, but it's my understanding there's a way that they can take DNA and duplicate it, and make enough to test.
Yes.
But I don't know if there's enough even for that yet.
Well,
I don't know for sure yet.
Well, one of the things that they would be looking for is a familia type of connection, so it'd be catching it to another member of the family, a cousin, an uncle, a sister, a brother, and then figuring it out from there. So that might be, I'm going to ask David. I'm going to ask him because he's offered to help on any of the cases that we talk about. They've solved cases from 100 years ago with, just one drop of something. So, and he says he's able to do it. So I don't know any of that either. Like, I'm not a scientist, like that's not my forte, but I have been researching this because of us talking with him. And, and then obviously there's that new show on ID channel, which is all about the genealogy detective, so we've been researching it a little bit more. And so it's very interesting, but anyway, so tell us a little bit more. Okay, so so what was Kathy like? What have you found? What just tell us a little bit about her.
That's actually this really, she was murdered and tortured, and that was horrendous. It was horrible. But the little girl, when I started digging, I've shed more tears on this than I have any case I've ever worked.
I cried today listening to the podcast that I found about her. I just sad.
It's just heart. Kathy, bless her heart, she, for lack of a better word, she never stood a chance in her whole life. She was born premature. Even when she was born, from the time she was born to the time she was murdered, she was born premature. She had a lazy left eye that wouldn't quite open all the way. She had, because of her prematurity, she had several, I can't quantify that. She had several surgeries to correct things that were wrong.
I don't remember the number, but there were quite a few surgeries.
Yes. And the girl,
she was very tiny.
She lived the best life she could under the circumstances. The family never really had much financially. I read information and got information from one of the family members. Sometimes there was not enough food to feed the family. It was just an all around bad situation. Now, Kathy
that she was picked on in school too.
Kathy was a quiet child, but she would make a friend. Those that would be her friend, because most people avoided her. They wanted really nothing to do with little Kathy. But she wanted friends. She was willing to be one of the friends, be one of the girls. Basically, Kathy was quiet, friendly. I mean, she would be friendly. She would be your friend, and she smiled when it was, possible for her to do so. She spent most of her time in her bedroom at home alone. She would close the door, turn the radio on, and sing and dance. That's mostly what she did. She did like to roller skate. She never had her own pair of roller skates up until the day that she was abducted. Her her cousin got a new pair of roller skates. And I don't know if it was her aunt or her cousin said, well, I want to give my old ones to Kathy because Kathy's never had any. So that was I think that was Saturday morning. They go to Kathy's house and say, here, you can have these skates. It was from the family members that I've talked to and the information, it was like she had been given Fort Knox. It was the grandest thing that child had ever.
She put what I heard today, she got the little pom-poms and put on there. And I remember doing that at my, when I was little, going to the skating rink, and I could just imagine her smiling.
Oh yeah. She was beside herself
on those skates.
She was so very happy that day. So she was just beside herself. And you're right. She put the pom-poms on. That was just great for her. But yeah, just go before we get any farther with that, if you don't mind. In school, she was horribly bullied. One of the girls that went to school with her, I talked to her, and she said that when Kathy the one time that she remembered going in there and seeing Kathy, some of the other girls lifted her dress up, laughing, making fun of her, pointing at her panties because they had holes in them. There were seconds. The little girl she never had a new pair of clothes ever.
Yeah, everything was hand me down.
Everything was hand me down, except, and this is what's so tragic. Part of it. There's so much tragedy here, so much tragedy here. It's horrible. The girl did finally wear a new dress at her funeral. That's the first time.
That is so sad. That is so sad.
But she had I don't remember. I think it was a pink dress. I believe it. I think it was a pink dress with white lace collar. Had a brooch on, and that was the first time. She never knew it. She never knew she had a new dress. But
heartbreaking.
It is. It's really sad.
It is. So she leaves her home at 7:45. She's heading out to Krispy Kreme's, right?
No, she was going to the skate and rink.
Right, but she headed out to Krispy Kreme first, and then she was going to get a donut. And you said she had done some chores or something to get the money from her mother.
Yeah. She had done some stuff. I don't know what she did because, of course, her mom's dead, and she had done some odds and ends around the house, and had done enough to earn $1. She earned $1. Of course, now back then, in my research, we're talking about donuts like a nickel. Entry to the skating rink was 55 cents. So she had $1 to get in the skating rink, get several donuts. She had plenty of money for that. Left out of the house, kissed her mom on the cheek, hollered back, "Thanks for the $1, Mom." She had her purse with her skates over her shoulder, and in her purse she had one of those little Bibles, the little kind you get. They're usually just a New Testament. They come in white, green, blue, different colors. And she had her copy of that book, and she had a deck of playing cards in her purse, along with some Avon samples that she had gotten, perfume samples. And she left at 7:45. Witnesses said, she left out the front door of her house on Ludi Street in Nashville, walked west on Ludi until she got to the back entrance of the fire department. Now, the fire department had the whole from Ludi Street over to I forget the name of the street now. I've looked at that so much I shouldn't know. I should remember. But they had the front of the fire department was on the other street. The back of the fire department was on Ludi. And what they would do is they would come in Ludi after answering a call, pull in the back lot, and they'd pull right into the fire department and be ready for the next call. So Kathy took a shortcut through the lot of the fire department, and we know this because there were two firefighters that said that yes, they saw her. They saw her cut across the parking lot, go over to the name of that road, go over to the next road, and then she sort of veered right a little farther to go across the parking lot of the grocery store, which was the CB grocery store at that time. Now it's a pawn shop. Somebody at the store saw her go to the traffic signal, and that was the last time that we have found anybody. I'm sure somebody else saw her along the way, but that's the last time we can verify that anybody saw her was when she was standing there at the intersection. Apparently, she did not make it to Krispy Kreme or to the skating rink because nobody saw her in either location. Excuse me, and she still had the $1 bill in her coat pocket. So now there's some theories on which route she may have taken, where she might have been picked up. None of that, without somebody coming forward. There were about 5 houses that, of course, are long gone, that were on the western margin of Nolensville Road that were residences at the time. We have not been able to locate those people. They may be deceased. Don't know. Maybe one of them saw something, but we don't know which route she took. It was dark outside. It was very cold. It was like 30, I forget, in the low 30s. It wasn't freezing yet, but it was very cold. There was a wind out of the north, I think at 12 miles an hour. There was no moon, not yet. The moon would not come up over the horizon until I believe it was like 10:30ish, something like that. So it was completely dark. Now, there was some belief that perhaps Kathy got down to McLean, which is a cross street on Nolensville Road, and perhaps cut across the back of Krispy Kreme and came in down that way, but beside Krispy Kreme. Initially, I did not buy that theory because we're talking about a girl It's really demure, really quiet, really shy, not really sure of herself. Why would she there were no street lights. It was not heavily traveled. Why would this girl cut back in dark on a side street, not lit, cold?
Sure.
But having another lady contacted me that Kathy had gone to that Saturday afternoon after her chores and before she left to go to the skating rink, said that Kathy came to her house, which was 2 blocks farther over west, and said that Kathy came to her house and asked her, are you going skating tonight? And the little girl said, no, I'm grounded. I can't go. So 2 things. One, Kathy was familiar with that area, even though she had just moved there like 3 months prior to school starting. So at least Kathy was familiar with that. So perhaps, maybe at this point now, maybe she did cut through. But nonetheless, she never made it to Krispy Kreme. And they began, and then also the police department initially said, well, maybe she ran off with a little, quote unquote, little boyfriend or something. The mom said, no, she was not there yet. But now I question that because she had the perfume samples. So she was starting to be interested in, I want to smell good. So I'm not so sure that I buy the mom's. I'm not saying the mom's guilty of anything. I'm thinking, obviously, Kathy was interested, at least partially, in the girlish, quote unquote, type thing because she did have the perfume samples. Excuse me, but nonetheless, they finally did begin searching for her. They called out civil defense and the police department, of course, and did not initially find her until I think it was the 1st. And one of the civil defense workers, where they had already searched, which was the vacant lot. It was a weeded lot, heavily weeded, like 3 feet high weeds. They had searched that previously, supposedly, but then a civil defense worker came back that day and thought actually it was a mannequin. He said, I thought it was a mannequin. He said, but then I looked and realized that no, it was a little girl. And that was when they found her. It was a really horrible scene.
Yeah, they said that what I was hearing today was that those officers that worked that scene said that they were forever changed by how graphic, how bad it was.
Yeah. It was a really, nobody deserves that. And certainly not a little girl.
No.
Nobody.
Do you think it's possible that she had an older boy flirting with her, that set her up?
Oh yeah, it's possible.
I mean,
and when you say that, I've got 3, actually almost 4 2-inch 3-ring binders of papers and photos and stuff on this just this one case. There was, and I got to be careful what I say and how I say it. There was, in one of the rapes that I told you all about that was reported to me, that wasn't reported to police then, the girl, okay, you got to watch what I say, Steve. The girl was led to the rape scene, which was in the area, immediate area, by a classmate of hers, who was I think maybe a year older than her, and the suspect who did the rape paid him $20 to lure her to him. So he told her, said, well, we're going to go, I want you to go with me to the pharmacy. Let's get us a soda, whatever, and sit down and talk. Okay. But then they started taking a different route. She said, well, this is not the way to the pharmacy or to the soda fountain. She said, well, he's got to make another stop. Anyway, long story short, he took her to this location, a field by the school, raped her, and then told her, don't you tell anybody or I'll do to you like I did to Kathy.
Oh my.
Wow.
So he was 18 at the time. Now I don't think he would have been a boyfriend, but nonetheless he's on our radar.
Right.
He is not still living, but the boy who lured her over there is. We know who he is. There's so many variables. Matter of fact, in doing research, one of the suspects who is also deceased, another one, lived in Iowa for a period of time. And in doing my research, I dug up another cold case in Iowa, in Des Moines, the same city where he lived, just a few blocks away, that is also a girl, a cold case female who was assaulted and murdered. Same time while he was there. But yeah, of course, I can't place him there at the scene or say he did the crime. But there's just so much information to go through on this case. And so many people have come forward. But yeah, there's several variables. We've talked to people who said give us the names of the sexual predators that they knew of in their neighborhood. Business, a couple of business owners' names were mentioned. So yeah, there's a plethora of possibilities. Two really distinct ones.
Right. Right. And so what are you doing with that? Are you working with the police in trying to like give them the information, or are you just kind of collecting it for yourself? I know you're ex detective. So, I mean, obviously you have the skills to do so.
Well, the way I do it, and don't get me wrong, I don't do like millions of these. I just occasionally. Right. Before I started doing Kathy's case, I wrote, I think it was 2 or 3 pages letter to the police department cold case commander. I said, look, my name is this is who I am. This is what I'm going to be doing. I'm not trying to step on toes. I'm not even trying to I just want to help. Maybe I can uncover something. And I sent them that letter, and then I started on my own. I don't like to go and look at a cold case file. I want to look at it after I've done everything I can do, because I don't want to look at somebody else's report and then that goes in here. Right. And I'm constantly
tunnel vision.
I want to do my own thing. And if I'm completely a totally wacko job, then that's fine. But I want to see what I can come up with, and then let's compare. But I'm at the point, I have not talked. I want to talk to one of the investigators that worked the case at the beginning, who's still living. I have not touched base with him, and I want to do that probably sometime in the next couple of months. And then at that point, then I will contact the police department and say, do you want to see what I have? And let's see. So that's where we are right now.
Yeah, because I've heard a lot of, Cheryl's talked about it before in the way that she looks at cold cases with the Cold Case Research Institute too, is the same thing of trying to not look at the reports, but just evidence. And she walks from one point to the next, and looking at each different piece to see what they all look at and what they can see, and then goes back, like you said, and looks at what maybe others have read, written down. What did I miss? What did they miss? And I think that's really truthfully, because I think about, that's one of the reasons why I don't listen to a lot of other true crime podcasts anymore. I used to, but I don't now, because I don't want to be influenced by what I hear another podcaster say, or what I'm thinking of. So when we're looking at a case, I look at news reports, and then I try and go find whatever I can find that is, the documents, things like that, talking to people that were involved, getting you guys involved with stuff, but for the same reasoning, because once you hear something, even I've always thought about this in court cases too, because where they say something and then they're like, strike that, the jury should disregard. You can't take that back out of their brain.
You can't take that
they
out.
Have heard it. They've heard it. They've seen it. Whatever it is, it's there. It's even if they try to think, the more they try to think about, let's not think about that, the more they're thinking about it, because they're making an effort to not think about it, right?
You can't unhear that. Yeah.
You can't unhear it. You can't unlearn what you already know. You're there. So I think that's a really great way to do these cold cases, is to give fresh eyes, fresh perspective on it, and really kind of boots on the ground, kind of, a way of dealing with it. So do you feel like you're closer to putting this case to a place of maybe, answers, or are you still a long ways off from that? Where do you feel like you are right now?
I don't know, because I don't know what. I'm still looking for that one little something. We have some clues on the trace evidence. I had somebody contact me and say, I think I met with her one-on-one, and we talked about it. I told her that she was very close to it. I said, I need to find out if you know about this, or was trying to be real careful what I say, because some of this I can let out, some of it I can't. This trace evidence here. Do you know of anybody in the family that would have this? And initially she said no, and then she called me back about 2 weeks ago. She said yes. Yes. So we have a possible source of that trace evidence. So it's ongoing.
Right.
This could be, somebody could come forward tomorrow and say, okay, this is this and done.
Right. It's broken wide
It
open.
may never still be solved, even though we have two really strong suspects.
Right. Even if that happens, though, we still have to do the crime walk.
Yeah. I actually, since we talked, I went up there and just rode around a little bit, and it's changed, of course. We're talking about 1969, intersection of two very busy roads. Krispy Kreme's been torn down, rebuilt. Where Kathy was found is now a parking lot. But I didn't get out. I didn't walk it. I drove by it, but there was this powerful sense of her presence, I guess. And again, I'm not trying to be real Twilight Zone weird, but it just sensed like she was just something there. It was just something that you just sense it.
I was that way with the Haley Dunn case. I had the opportunity to go to the lake area where her remains were found. And it was rough. It was heavy. And I mean, I cried because it just, children aren't supposed to be murdered and especially with no answers when a lot of it's very obvious and nothing happens, and it was sad.
Yeah. Kathy's case it's completely and totally different than any other case I've ever worked in emotions. And I know everybody knows that police officers aren't supposed to have emotions. You bite. I don't know how many bruises or scars I probably have on the inside of my cheek in answering calls at home because, you're pinching your leg so hard. I don't have to do that anymore. I don't have to do that. If I'm sitting here and I'm reading, there are times tears will come down my cheek when I'm working on Kathy's case. This is just a very high emotion. The girl, like I said, and I guess what's really tragic, and I'm not saying the death of any child is not. They're all horrible, all of them, even adults. But when you have a little girl that never really just had any chance at all, everything was stacked against her. It
doesn't seem like she had a real childhood.
She didn't. The girl did. She just didn't have anything going for her. And let me go back to the bullying. While they were looking for Kathy and the kids came back to school after the Thanksgiving holiday, Kathy didn't show up. The teacher told the students, that's how bad the bullying was. When Kathy comes back, I want all of you to quit bullying her. Or I thought bullying wasn't the word. I think it was like taunting her or picking on her.
Picking on her.
Bad, even the teacher knew it. Even the teacher knew that.
Gosh.
That's how bad it was. But yeah, I've just never had a case that has impacted me so much.
Could this be tied to any of that bullying?
That has been the theory, but we can't place any of the kids her classmates to anything. The closest we've come to replacing a child, at least that I'm aware of, is the one that was her classmate that led her to the field for the other boy to rape her. At this point, anything's possible, but we do have two suspects. Like I said, one is deceased, very, very, very close to the family. The other one. I
started to ask a question on that, but I won't.
Very, very close to the family, and I think she probably knows. I think Brandy probably knows who I'm talking about. They will mention it. I won't, but I'll say he was very, very close to the family. And another one that was in the area, walked pretty much everywhere he went, hung out at a bar close to there. So, and that's probably more than I should say, but we've got a couple of really good suspects.
That's great.
The only problem, as usual, is we're trying to find that something
that
to link, right, to link them to that.
Right. And it's hard back in those days because everything is circumstantial from that time period, you know, like, because, you know, I mean, you always hear people say that, oh, it's a circumstantial case. Well, I always try to tell people, you know, 90% of cases are circumstantial. Like the only thing that's not circumstantial is DNA evidence. Like that's it.
You gotta,
Well, you know,
picture of the murder happening, that wouldn't be circumstantial. That would be.
yeah, you know, and as she was talking about a while ago, no autopsy. That's probably the worst thing that didn't happen. And we had other little things. We had, you know, other little things that took place. Like, and I get it. I understand. The civil defense worker that found her covered her up with a blanket.
Right.
You know.
Well, you
mean
think,
well,
you
but
know,
the whole evidence, whole scene.
Right. You just ruined the whole scene. But you have to think about what it was like back then. And this was a small area at that point, you know.
Yeah.
So you're hearing that, and they didn't know, and we've talked about this before, is investigators who don't have a lot of experience in dealing with this type of crime, or they don't have the resources or whatever. And this is 1969, so
Yeah.
you know,
it's pre-DNA what, you know.
And, well, that was the one thing they said, is back then they were still bagging everything in plastic. They didn't know not to put things in plastic and to put it in the paper bags.
Paper bags, exactly.
Things were sweating and ruining what evidence they did have.
But you know, they did what they knew to do, and
right.
Unfortunately, now we know that that's not all that policy and procedure is correct. So,
well, you only know what you you can only know what you know. You know, you don't, you can't, you don't even know what you don't know until you've got to that point, you know.
I mean, just like right now, police are doing things they shouldn't do 10 years from now.
Right.
There's probably something we're doing now that, oh, well, we shouldn't have done that. Well, this is all we know right now. And I won't, and I'm not saying y'all are faulting. We can't fault them. That's just the way it was at the time. It's just,
no, absolutely not.
Unfortunately, now we know better, but oh well, that's just the way the world is.
Yeah, the no autopsy thing still just had me going, but why? I mean, do you know, was it because of their economic status, or was it just that area?
The medical examiner looked at her. I don't know if he just thought it was just so, we got a murder though. This is not a suicide. This is obvious murder.
And a child, not an adult that could have been a circumstance, put themselves in their own position. Yeah. This was a child. So that just struck me as so odd. It was the only thing with the whole thing that I'm like, why? Why?
That would probably could have, and one of the original detectives, or maybe it was, no, it was not one of the original detectives. One of the others, I can't remember his name, said this is solvable. And it is. It's a solvable case. It's just missing something.
Well, that's how I feel about the case that I'm obsessed with down here in Delphi, Indiana. That case I feel like should have been solved like this, and it's just one thing. It's something that's just we've got this, but it's just one thing. Or one thing that we're missing, and nobody knows what that is. We don't know what the one thing is because it's missing, But that case is another case like that I believe after 4 years now, it should have been solved. We have a picture of the guy. We have his voice.
Yeah, I've seen that photo.
Town. Like it's a small town. It's a very clear picture of him. It's not like it's like a distorted and he's looking down like this. Like we have pictures.
Right.
That case should be easily solved, and it's still not. I was just talking with Cheryl McCollum about that case because we're going to do a wine and crime with her, an online one. She's been doing regular ones, but because we're all kind of shut in, we were on CrimeCon house arrest with her. I saw her presentation doing wine and crime with her, and I was like, hey, we could really do that. Let's do one with us. And so she said, well, I think you should book a case that we've worked, so that way I have some stuff. But I had said, well, I really wanted to do something with Delphi, and she goes, well, the problem with that is we're not going to get the files, but we could still do it. She's like, we can still add that on, because you're right, I think that's a very solvable case too. She goes, I've worked on that. And Joseph Scott Morgan has worked on that. But it's such an odd case again, that why is this not solved? Now I can understand yours. It's 1969. We've got problems. There's challenges there. But like, hello, how do we not have this?
Well, and that was the one thing I had to remind myself because I kept thinking, why is a 12-year-old girl walking that far to begin with at night.
Right.
And I'm like, wait, it's 1969. That was normal.
Well, back then that was normal, you know.
Right.
And I actually lived
shop or whatever back then, and
you know, I lived about, I think it was, I figured about 9 or 10 miles from Kathy. I was there living in Nashville. Of course, I was 13. I'm not watching the news. You know, I don't remember it being reported. But you know, I would leave the house in the morning. I'd be gone all day long. My bicycle.
Right. Yeah.
I better come home. I better come home at dark.
Yeah,
That's we just did things like that
before the street lights came on, right? That's what my mom's thing was.
Where I lived, we didn't even have street lights, but I was from dawn till dusk. I was gone. You know, stay home.
And you know, I think about that in the 70s too. When you think about these girls that are being murdered, and you have every single time you hear they were hitchhiking, you're like, what the hell were they doing? Everyone was hitchhiking in the 70s, like everyone. You know? That
was the way you got around.
Right? A girl wanted to go to the beach. She stuck her thumb out. You know, she's like, "Hey, can you take me down
well, that's true.
You know, like, and so, but you think about the times they seemed like a simpler time. They seemed like a safer time.
But if you really had,
but if you really look back
today.
Right, they weren't. They weren't.
No.
People just didn't talk about it.
Right.
They just didn't talk about it.
They didn't. There was no mention of it.
Something that you paid attention to. You didn't talk about it. Just like we pretended for years and years and years nothing was happening with little boys and Catholic priests. Like, no, it's not happening. He's our priest. God, there's no way this is happening. It's happening. It's happening like a freaking plague, folks. It was happening. You know. So, but you just don't. There's certain things you just didn't discuss. And like you said, that is one of these things. You know, I'm sure it was so tragic, you know, and I'm sure close people near them, you know, oh, we're so sorry for your loss and all of these different things, but it didn't go beyond that. Like, we're not going to talk about what happened. We're not going to, it's like Fight Club. The first rule about Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club, right? So same thing.
Stephen, how far was it from her home to the skating rink?
It was about a 20-minute walk, and I forget the actual, I mean, I measured it by myself measured it, but it was about a 20-minute walk from her house to the skating rink. I don't remember the exact.
So a good 6
half
to
a
10
mile,
blocks?
3/4 mile, huh?
A good 6 to 10 blocks, probably? Or is that more? I'm trying to think.
No, it was about a 20-minute. It was about a 20-minute walk.
Okay.
If you went from her front door to the skating rink.
It's a pretty good walk for a 12-year-old.
Yeah. I think it was about a half or 3/4 mile. I don't remember. Wow. I did measure it myself. I know the news media said. I said, well, I'm not going to not disputing the news media, but I measured it myself. So it was a good 20-minute walk for her.
Well, we're going to.
It was cold. It was windy, and it was very busy on a Saturday night.
Yes. But we had planned, you know, and I still hope that we do this. You know, we had planned to actually walk the course that she would have taken that night. You know, of course, things have changed. Everything is different, you know, obviously, but we can still take that same course, that same path, and really, you know, we were going to go live and do that. And I still really do want to go ahead and do that because I think that you know, we even walking like you said, there's something about the presence of her being there. It's something about that and feeling in the moment of what she was thinking that moment and feeling all of that sometimes something will trigger in your mind in that moment of, well, wait a minute. What about that? Oh my goodness. What about the green, you know, shoe or, you know, whatever it was, you know, that I saw in that picture, I was laying there. I wonder why that was there, you know. I think that's something really interesting. We definitely still want to go ahead and do that with you. I've been, you know, once the weather warms up a little bit, maybe we'll head out there together again, and hopefully, you know, the lockdowns will have, you know, been pulled back a bit more now that we have some vaccines out there and things like that. So I'm hoping that, you know, maybe we'll get a chance to actually do what we wanted to do. Is there anything else that you would like to tell us about this case? And where can they find out more from you about this case?
I have a friend of mine. We became friends after I began investigating this case, Olivia Lind. She did a series of podcasts called Flat Rock.
That's the one I listened to today.
Yeah, it's a very well done, very professional, very well researched. She started this before I did, so she was actually able to talk to some family members who at that time were still living that I've not been able to. I have talked to some who are still living, I have done the three, not as extensive as she has done. I have done 3 podcasts on the case of Kathy, mainly from my perspective and where we are and where we're going. But I would strongly suggest that someone listen. I believe it's flatrock.com. And go, and there's a multi-part series on this whole investigation, this whole case. I would urge somebody to listen to that. And if you have, I was on a radio show this morning, and we discussed this to your listeners. If you have, or viewers, if you have anything that you know about Kathy, about the area that has to do with Kathy, her school, her classmates, her family, what she liked to eat for lunch, I don't care. Whatever you know, please, no matter how insignificant you think it might be just the very thing that we need to solve this. There was a case, there was a case some years ago that I worked back when I was still a police officer, and we were looking for information. And finally, a lady come forward. She says, "Well, I don't have anything you can use, but I'll let you know what I have anyway." She said, "All I have is the first 3 numbers of this tag." You're kidding, right? Oh my God, are you kidding me? You have? Well, yeah, but then she said, "I'm sorry, it's not all of it." I said, please don't be sorry. And because we can take even one number or letter off a tag and state. And we can match it to a list of vehicles that match that. And I'm not trying to make fun of her, but I was so happy. Thank you for coming forward. You know, it might just be that maybe I'm just grasping at straws here. Maybe somebody was walking down Nolensville Road, November 29th, around 8:00, and saw her. Maybe they saw her talking to somebody in a car. Maybe you think that's insignificant. No, that could be exactly what we need. I don't care how small you think it is or how insignificant. Please contact me or the Nashville Cold Case Unit, please.
Yes, please.
Cheryl before is her telling us that, you know, some people think that it's so insignificant, or why would I need to, but that it's something that breaks it open. She's like, you know, because if you live in a neighborhood and every night you go home and you see the cars down the neighborhood, and all of a sudden there's a van there that you never have seen before parked in the driveway, then that's significant. But
it is.
It may not be significant at the time. You may not even realize it. But when somebody's saying, "Did you see anything that day?" Well, no, not really. But I mean, there was a van parked at Jimmy's driveway, and I've never seen it before, and I haven't seen it since. Oh my God, what does it look like? You know, so
right.
Guys, it's never something. I think that everybody expects something to break a case open to be extremely big, something huge. You know, and oftentimes, and more often than not, honestly, it's not something big. It's something small. And like you said, it's the one thing that you just didn't have, you know, this little piece. And once you have that little piece, all the other pieces, like in the puzzle, they all begin to shift and fit together the right way, you know. But without that little piece, nothing's ever going to fit, you know. It's all going to
because with it being a cold case, we don't know all of the evidence they have, and so one thing you mentioned could be exactly what matches evidence is what they needed.
Right.
So,
exactly.
I mean, it could be anything as from, I saw somebody buying bubble gum talking to her. Well, that bubble gum was found at the scene. You just never know anything.
There is no way, unless she was abducted, and even then, there is no way somebody did not see Kathy after the red light. Even if she was abducted at the red light. This is Saturday night at 8:00.
Right.
I was living in Nashville at the time. My dad, and the reason I know this, my dad was killed when I was 9. We lived in Nashville, and he was buried at Woodlawn Cemetery, which is just down the road from here. So we were always on Thompson Lane and Nolensville Road. That was a busy road back in 1969, as I remember it very vividly. So we're talking Saturday night, Thanksgiving weekend, Nolensville Road, busy road, and so is Thompson Lane. Somebody saw her beyond that traffic signal. Or if she was abducted at the traffic, somebody saw that. Somebody saw something.
Well, I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and one of the big things that happened on Friday and Saturday nights was cruising. People would drive up and down and
Cruise the
turn
strips. Yeah.
cruise the strips. And I know that this was a popular thing in the 60s as well, to show off your car and the new T-Bird and the new whatever that you were getting, and the guys all piled in, and you guys, the girls sat up on the tops of the back and the cart,
Right.
the things, like
this was around Thanksgiving, so people were out.
People
it
would
was
have
a
been
Saturday after Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Right. People are home from, even the college students are home from college and all the different things, so yeah, definitely would be a time period, that there would have been people out to see what was going on. And so, like Stephen said, guys, if you have anything that you can even think of from the night that maybe didn't specifically have to do with Kathy, but just that something that you had seen or people that you saw or something that you saw that may have been out of the norm, anything would be something that would be significant and helpful in this case. And we're just trying to get some justice in this case, get this, and give her some time to rest, and do that. So we thank you so much, Stephen, for coming and joining us. We always enjoy when you come and talk with us. We have always such a great time. And I really do want to make that walk. So let's plan to do that in the spring. It's coming up here.
Good.
And then we will do a live broadcast of what we're doing there that time, guys. You guys see, what we're doing, and we'll talk and walk and the whole thing. So, so thank you so much again for joining us. You have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and we will see you a bit later. Okay.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's always enjoyable to be with everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Alrighty, guys. Well, that was David Lampley, and he was wonderful for him to be with us tonight. And so I just really enjoy when he comes on and talks. He's got such he's got a great heart. A lot of police officers that you talk to after being a career police officer, especially detective, their hearts get hard,
They're jaded. They're very jaded.
But he is always very kind, and he's got a very kind heart. And most of the people that we work with do. Cheryl has heart for days, and so I just really appreciate when they come and they give us our time. So guys, if there is anything you can think of, or if you're looking into the case now that you've heard about it, please, you can reach out to us. You can reach out to Stephen or reach out to the police that are in the area, please, so that we can get this taken care of with her. And remember, like I said, if you are thinking about wanting to do something like this, go ahead and give us a little video so we can see if you fit with our team. Brandy, thank you for joining me again tonight.
Absolutely.
She's going to be here on Friday nights with me for a little while, guys. And then actually my daughter is going to start doing Monday nights with our Crime of the Month with me for right now until we figure out what to do. So you guys are going to get to see Emily and Wyatt more.
Can never get too much of Wyatt.
Oh God, he was here today. I was just like, oh, I just love him so much.
I miss mine being little. He's 9 now, almost 10. He back talks. He got attitude. I miss the little stage.
yeah, right. Well, Wyatt back talks too with his little pacifier. He goes, so funny. For being a quiet baby, because he's not a very loud baby. He doesn't cry all the time, but he talks constantly, just all kinds of noises. And so much so that when he was sleeping in the bassinet in my room, he would make noise all night long, and I'd get up, surely he's awake, and I'd go over and look, nope, sound asleep, just making noise. So cute. But anyway, and we're going to start, we're working on some new stuff, guys. We're going to do some big cases 3 times a year. We're going to do a bigger deep dive into some of these cases. The first one we're going to be starting off with is Ariel Castro, the 3 girls out of Indiana that were kidnapped and held for 10 plus years.
Yeah, I was trying to remember how long it was. It was a long time.
One of them was 10, I think. Another one was 12, and I think Michelle was held the longest. I think it was 14 years.
Yeah.
So it was a crazy amount of time. So we'll be doing that case in April. We're going to do a multi thing. So it's going to hit our blog, our podcast, and over here on Murder by Design. So we're going to kind of go across all platforms with that one. And those are going to be some of the things that we go a little more deep into these cases. If you ever think of a case that you guys want us to actually look into, or that you're just interested in hearing more about, please go ahead and send it in to us at goodwivesdish.com. goodwivesdish@gmail.com. And then, guys, the third season of the Good Wives Guide to True Crime is coming back. It's going to be back at the end of January, beginning of February. And we did just also drop our second episode of Gone Cold. So with Todd Matthews, from the former director of Name Us, and he owns the Doe Project right now. So guys, that he's doing some amazing work, and we're just honored to be able to be a part of that. We do 2 podcasts a month with him, dedicated to missing persons and unsolved cases. So we're really excited about working with him. So thank you. And Brandy, you've got your new one coming out. We're working on Diane Downs right now. You and I are working together.
Yes, we're our goal is, because we've talked a lot. You've talked on here on Murder by Design about Diane. I did on my last episode at the beginning of the year. And so what I want to do, and this is what you and I are working on, is we're going to dig into the family's claims and our supporters' claims, and we're going to break those down and give the proof that we can prove yes or no on what they're claiming.
They got some doozies. They got some doozies, guys. They got some doozies. Brandy and I touched on this a little bit in the final episode of the Crime of the Month for November, or for December. That was Diane Downs that we just wrapped up. So you guys are going to want to come back and look at.
Yeah, we're going deep. We're going deep, and I'm not playing devil's advocate. I'm telling you. But I'm going to go. I want to go word for line by line of everything they throw out there. Discuss it. Give the proof that supports it or disproves it, and go that route.
Right. Well, thank you guys for joining us tonight in Dishing True Crime with the Good Wives and Brandy from True Crime Uncorked. Go ahead and check us out on all the social medias at True Crime Wives on Instagram and Twitter, and at Facebook, also at True Crime Wives. You can find us there, or you can find our larger page, which is MBD True Crime. You also we're going to be starting to put a lot more information into our Patreon account. We're going to be starting a subscription service here on YouTube. So we've got a lot of big goodies coming for you guys. We've got a lot of good stuff coming out, and we have some brand new merchandise that we're working on. Some that'll be exclusive to our members that join, and then also just on top of that. And like I said, we are trying to work with Cheryl McCollum to do a wine and crime in February. That's going to be a really interesting event. It will be partially a fundraising event for the Cold Case Research Institute. So we're really excited about that with her. But anyway, guys, have a great rest of your weekend, and we will see you back here on Monday. Bye.